Hey guys, James here, how's it going? So I'm just going to make a video about Proposition 19 and why I'd personally be voting yes for it if I was living in California. Now just in case you've been living under a rock for the last few months, basically Proposition 19 is a ballot proposition being brought about in November in California which effectively makes it legal to the government to supply and regulate the use of marijuana. They're proposing that people should be able to have up to an ounce for personal use, and it should also be able to be sold from licensed premises. So I'm just going to present some of my arguments as to why I think it should be legalised, and hopefully change the minds of people who are undecided or against the proposition at the moment. Now, before I get accused of only wanting people to vote yes because I smoke weed myself, no, I smoke weed about once every 3 or 4 weeks, and it's really no big deal to me. If I didn't have any weed at all for the rest of my life, wouldn't matter in the slightest, but I think people should have the right to make up their own mind about the subject, and it's all about civil liberties. I even hear stoners say that they don't want weed to be legalised because then it'll be in control of big government and all that crap, and that's just moronic in my opinion. I mean, yeah, the government aren't perfect, but they're far better than criminals. If it was sold in shops, it would be a lot cheaper. If it wasn't cheaper, then people would go back to selling it illegally. And also there'd be regulations, so it wouldn't be tampered with. It wouldn't be tampered with as much, if at all, and also it'd be weighed correctly. You'd know exactly what you were getting before you bought it. This would of course lead to extra tax revenue, which could be spent on roads, schools, hospitals, and everything else which is vitally important to the community. It would help bring us out of the recession, help bring the whole world out of the recession potentially, and take a lot of money out of criminal hands. This would then mean that the police would be able to tackle real criminals, not some guy who's only hurting himself, if anyone, by smoking some harmless plant. The police would be able to tackle criminals who are, rapists, murderers, people who are selling hard drugs, sex traffickers, and it would take a lot of pressure off of the prison system. I also think that it would massively help the problem of children getting hold of drugs. So I know from personal experience, when I was 13, 14, it was extremely easy for me to get hold of weed. All I had to do was phone someone up, and 20 minutes later, I'd have some weed in my pocket. It was much harder for me to get hold of alcohol or even cigarettes because shopkeepers actually have some level of responsibility. They're not going to sell to children. They're not gaining anything from that. Drug dealers, completely different story. A lot of them are struggling to survive as it is. And so if they're offered £10 by an 8-year-old kid to buy it, they're not going to give a shit. So yeah, I think it will massively stop children being able to get hold of it. And my next argument is that it would be much easier for people to get help if they really needed it. Personally, I've never found weed even remotely addictive. I smoked it a lot when I was younger, but I really didn't need it, and I could give it up at any point I wanted. I smoke weed, once every 2 or 3 weeks at the moment, and it really doesn't bother me. I can take it or leave it. But I know that some people do find it addictive. But having it legal would make it much easier for them to seek help. They wouldn't feel like some sort of social outcast just for smoking weed. So they'd be able to get professional help far, far easier. Also, from personal experience and from speaking to lots of other people about it, I think that weed is an excellent substitution for alcohol. I know that people who've had alcohol problems have started smoking weed, and it's helped them give up the alcohol entirely. It should also make it far easier for scientists to research the medicinal purposes of marijuana. They'd no longer have to go through massive levels of bureaucracy just to be able to get hold of the stuff. They'd be able to test it far more easily in the lab, and also be able to assess it better among the general population. There's also very little evidence to suggest that making it legal would increase the amount of marijuana being smoked. As I mentioned before, it would stop children being able to get hold of it, and people would also be a lot less likely to smoke it just to act cool. So those are my arguments. Looking forward to your comments and video responses. So until next time, guys, take care and play safe. Goodbye.